Along a lonely stretch of highway in a quiet southern town, two off-duty policewomen pulled into a weather-beaten gas station for a quick stop. Their brief pause was interrupted when the deep rumble of motorcycles shattered the calm. A gang roared into the lot, their tattoos and leather vests broadcasting danger. As tension rose and the nervous cashier froze, the two officers stepped forward, composed, alert, and unshaken. What the bikers didn't realize was that these weren't average travelers. They were trained, experienced, and fully prepared for a fight. The last glow of sunlight dipped beneath the skyline, casting long, creeping shadows over the cracked highway that wound through Rivertown, Mississippi. Only the distant sound of tires and the occasional chirp of crickets filled the air. Alicia Carter, a black officer, kept both hands on the wheel of her dark Dodge Charger, eyes scanning the road ahead with precision. The dashboard's glow lit her features, highlighting the scar above her eyebrow, earned during her first year in uniform. Beside her, Nia Thompson, her lifelong friend and fellow cop, stretched in the passenger seat and sighed. 3 days of training, and now we're back in the middle of nowhere, she muttered, twisting the top off her water bottle. Alicia gave a faint smile, her voice dry but amused. Would you rather be buried in reports back at the office? Nia groaned. I'd rather not stop at creepy gas stations after dark, she said, gesturing at the nearly empty fuel gauge. No choice, Alicia answered, slowing as the faint neon sign for Wilson's stop appeared in the distance. The lonely station crouched at the edge of a gravel lot, its faded yellow signage flickering like it was on its last breath. The parking area was empty, save for a rusted-out pickup parked beside the building. Looks quiet, Alicia said, eyes narrowing slightly. But Alicia's instincts fired off instantly. Years of working deep undercover in narcotics had drilled one lesson into her: silence rarely meant safety. As she eased the car next to the pump, Nia's gaze swept the surroundings. Through the dusty windows of the small store, she spotted a lone clerk stationed at the register, a woman in her early 20s, fatigue written across her face. Her blonde hair was tossed into a careless ponytail, and the red apron she wore had "Lana" stitched in bold, blocky letters. The young woman managed a weary smile while hurriedly wiping the counter, her motions nervous and rushed. I'll handle the gas, Alicia said, stepping out into the thick, humid air. She subtly adjusted the holster hidden beneath her leather jacket before grabbing the nozzle. Nia exited the vehicle next, stretching her legs and walking toward the entrance. She nodded politely to Lana, then slipped down one of the aisles, scanning the shelves while quietly assessing the store's layout, more muscle memory than caution. A metallic ding from the front door broke the stillness, drawing Nia's attention. She turned just in time to catch Lana's face change. Her faint smile vanished instantly. Outside, the sound of engines erupted again as 3 motorcycles tore into the lot. Their polished chrome reflected the erratic glow of the station's failing lights. Leading the group was a massive rider in a black vest adorned with snakescale patches, the unmistakable symbol of the Steel Fangs. Viper Black. His name was as feared as his look, 6'4", solidly built, covered in ink that slithered around his biceps like living serpents. His gray beard added years he didn't wear, and Alicia and Nia both knew the truth. He was a predator in every sense. And he wasn't riding solo. 2 more bikers pulled in behind him, engines growling like wolves ready to circle. Rex sported a crimson bandana and an ever-present scowl, a jagged scar cutting across his cheek like a war badge. The second, Coyote, had jet black hair pulled into a tight knot and eyes that missed nothing, sharp, cold, assessing. Alicia's grip on the nozzle tightened as her stance subtly shifted, her shoulders squared, her spine straightened. Beneath her jacket, the weight of her badge pressed against her chest, and her Glock rested like a silent promise at her side. Inside, Nia drifted backward toward the counter, feigning interest in a shelf of chips. Her gaze never left Lana, who stood frozen as the bikers dismounted and approached. The entrance bell gave a soft ding as Viper paused near the door, ignoring the no-smoking notice, while sparking a cigarette. He blew out a thick plume of smoke, eyes locking onto Alicia. "Sweet ride," he said, voice gritty and low. But a lady like you shouldn't be out here by herself. It ain't safe. Alicia didn't blink. I can handle it, she replied coolly, her voice level, eyes unwavering. Viper chuckled, teeth stained and crooked. That's so. He took a slow step forward, boots scraping against concrete. Inside, the others fanned out. Rex leaned heavily on the counter, casting a shadow over Lana, who instinctively stepped away. Be a doll and open the register, he muttered, menace dripping from every syllable. Coyote wandered the aisles, grabbing a beer can while keeping Nia in his sights. You look like you could use company, he said, blocking her with his bulk. Nia didn't flinch, but her right hand edged closer to the pistol concealed under her blouse. Outside, Alicia sensed the rising tension. Her muscles tightened as Viper advanced, circling like a predator. Why don't you drop that nozzle and let me take you for a ride instead? He offered. I'll pass, Alicia said coolly, stepping back slightly to create distance. She noticed a knife hilt sticking from his boot and something bulkier beneath his vest. Viper's grin faltered as the bell chimed again, louder this time, slicing the moment in half. All eyes snapped to the glass as Rex began pounding the counter with his fist. Something wrong in there? Alicia called out, her voice sharp as steel. Viper's gaze hardened. Stay out of this. Alicia didn't budge. Inside, Lana's fingers trembled as she fumbled to unlock the till. Rex lunged over the counter, seizing her wrist. Enough, Nia said firmly, stepping forward. Rex turned slowly, his snarl replacing the smirk. And what exactly are you going to do? Without hesitation, Nia held up her badge, her tone like ice. Police. Let her go. For a split second, everything froze. Then Rex charged, pulling a blade from his belt. Outside, Alicia heard the scuffle and moved instantly. Back off. Now, she snapped, reaching for her gun. Viper shifted, stepping in her path. He grabbed her arm, but Alicia spun, using his own momentum to slam him hard into the car. Viper howled, flinging a wild punch that clipped her shoulder. She winced but retaliated immediately, twisting his arm and driving him to the pavement with practiced force. Inside, Nia ducked under Rex's swing, then landed a clean kick to his knee, sending him crashing down. She straddled him, pinning him hard, but Coyote wasn't idle. He grabbed Lana, yanking her upright and locking a blade beneath her jaw. Let him go, or she bleeds, he growled. Nia froze, heart racing, calculating her next move. Sweat trickled down her neck. Outside, Alicia spotted the standoff through the window, her pulse spiking. Let's slow this down, she said clearly, voice calm but commanding. We can work this out. Coyote's lips curled into a wicked grin. No deal. Drop it or she's done. The tension crackled, thick as storm clouds. Alicia and Nia locked eyes for a fraction of a second, silent communication between veterans. Both had trained for chaos like this. But even training could only take you so far. Alicia knew that all too well. What they really needed now was time. Just a few more precious seconds. Then, slicing through the silence, came a distant wail, the unmistakable cry of sirens. The sound sliced through the humid Mississippi air, bouncing off cracked pavement and making the motorcycles outside rattle where they stood. Viper's head jerked up toward the highway, his jaw tightening as red and blue lights flickered far down the road. Inside, Coyote pressed the blade tighter against Lana's skin, the glint of metal inches from her throat. Call them off, he shouted, his voice cracking, panic rising fast. Sweat gathered on his brow, dripping down into his eyes. Easy, Nia replied, voice low and even, despite the adrenaline pulsing through her veins. Her left hand remained lifted, palm out, while her right inched slowly toward her concealed firearm. No one's calling anything off, but this doesn't have to go sideways. Shut up, Rex snarled from where he lay on the ground, blood trailing from his nose. His wrists were zip-tied behind his back, tight and unforgiving. He twisted, trying to break free, but Nia kept him pinned with her knee planted firmly between his shoulder blades. Outside, Alicia dug her knee deeper into Viper's spine as he thrashed beneath her. She leaned in close, her voice cutting and cold. "You hear that? That's not just noise. That's your clock running out. Help's almost here. You've got seconds to make this easier on yourself." Viper let out a guttural snarl, muscles straining. "You think flashing lights scare me?" "No." Alicia shot back, eyes locked on the store window. "But they scare your crew." Inside, she caught a glimpse of Coyote flinching at the sirens. "Think your boys'll stay quiet once they're in cuffs? Think they'll rot in prison just to protect you?" That landed. Viper stopped resisting, if only for a breath. Alicia saw it, hesitation. Inside, Coyote's gaze flicked rapidly between Lana, Nia, and the incoming lights. His knuckles whitened on the knife. Lana whimpered, shutting her eyes tight. "Move," he barked at Nia, waving the blade wildly. Nia slowly straightened, heart hammering. Nia raised her hands with deliberate calm and stepped between Coyote and the exit, her stance unshakable. "You're not taking her anywhere," she said, her voice low but firm. Coyote's lip curled in a snarl. "The hell I'm not," he snapped, yanking Lana another step toward the door. Then, Alicia's voice thundered from outside, clear, commanding. "Coyote, drop the knife. Let her go." The moment he turned his head toward the sound, Nia moved. In one swift motion, she batted the blade aside and grabbed his wrist. He staggered, the knife clattering to the floor as Lana slipped from his grasp, stumbling back in a panic. "Run, Lana," Nia shouted, twisting Coyote's arm behind his back and forcing him down. Just then, Alicia charged through the door, weapon drawn. Coyote scrambled upright, only to freeze when he saw the Glock aimed directly at his chest. "Don't move," Alicia ordered, her tone like steel. Outside, flashing lights washed over the scene as two patrol cruisers roared into the lot, tires skidding through loose gravel. Doors flew open and officers spilled out, weapons raised and shouting commands. Still on the pavement, Viper finally ceased resisting. He scowled as the officers dragged him up and slapped cuffs on him. Rex, bruised and bloodied, was yanked out of the store and shoved into the back of a cruiser, his eyes burning with rage. Coyote, realizing he was surrounded and out of chances, slowly dropped to his knees. Pale and sweating, he raised both hands. Alicia didn't lower her weapon until two backup officers cuffed him and led him out the door. Inside, Nia gently lifted Lana from the floor, guiding her towards safety. "You're okay now," she whispered, though her pulse was still thudding in her ears. Lana nodded through sobs, clinging to Nia as the weight of the night settled on her shoulders. Meanwhile, outside, officers secured the perimeter. They swept the motorcycles, recovering multiple weapons, including a sawed-off shotgun, and a duffel bag loaded with cash and illegal drugs. Alicia and Nia stood by, their eyes still scanning the scene. "This wasn't random," Alicia muttered as she handed over evidence. "They came here with a purpose. This place was part of something bigger." "They were using this place to funnel contraband," Alicia said, eyes scanning the flashing cruisers. "This stop wasn't just intimidation. They were trying to silence Lana, maybe permanently." Nia nodded, her expression hardening. "Well, they failed. And we've got enough to bury them for years." A uniformed officer approached with a notepad. "We ran the tags. 2 bikes came up as stolen. The third's registered to a known Steel Fangs affiliate. We'll process them downtown." Alicia and Nia exchanged a glance, silent confirmation that this takedown ran deeper than they'd anticipated. "We'll follow you in," Alicia said, her mind already organizing the paperwork they'd have to prepare. Before they could leave, Lana stepped forward. Though her voice trembled, her words were steady. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't, but we were," Nia said softly, cutting her off with a reassuring nod. "And you're okay now." Lana managed a small smile, gratitude filling her teary eyes. Behind them, the bikers were loaded into patrol cars, defeated, restrained, and silent. Alicia and Nia lingered a moment, watching as the red and blue lights strobed across the gas station's grim facade. "This could have gone sideways," Nia murmured. "But it didn't," Alicia replied, her voice resolute. "Because we held the line." Turning toward their charger, the women moved with purpose. The night was far from over. There were reports to write, evidence to log, and statements to collect. But as they drove away from Wilson's stop, the chaos shrinking in their rear view, a quiet pride settled over them. Back at the station, the fluorescent lights buzzed low above the evidence intake counter. The energy from the confrontation hadn't fully faded. Adrenaline still hummed in their blood. Their uniforms showed signs of the battle. Alicia's sleeve torn near the seam where Viper's blade had barely missed flesh, and Nia's wrist reddened and bruised from disarming Coyote. Yet both stood tall, their posture unwavering. They hadn't just stopped a robbery. They dismantled a piece of something larger, a network operating beneath the radar. And they did it not with backup or luck, but with sharp instincts, quick reflexes, and the unshakable bond forged by years in the field. With the same calm resolve that had carried them through the night, the evidence lay spread across the desk. Items from the bust, several knives, a sawed-off shotgun, and a duffel bag packed with heroin bricks and stacks of cash. Officer Richards, cataloging each piece, let out a low whistle. "These guys weren't messing around," he muttered, flipping open a wallet pulled from Rex's pocket. Inside, fake IDs, stolen credit cards, and a folded paper listing addresses. "Looks like drop spots for distribution." Alicia and Nia exchanged a glance. "They're not just petty criminals," Nia said quietly. "This is a full operation." Alicia nodded. "And if those addresses are still active, others are out there." Before they could continue, Captain Ramirez stepped into the squad room, his broad figure casting a long shadow. He motioned them toward his office. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of old coffee and stacked reports. Ramirez leaned back, the stress visible in the creases of his face as he massaged his temples. "Just got off the line with the FBI," he said, voice level but tight. "Those 3 bikers connected to the Iron Reapers. You 2 just hit one of their logistics teams." Nia raised an eyebrow. "The Iron Reapers? I thought they dealt in weapons and racketeering, not drugs." "They've expanded," Ramirez replied darkly. "And tonight, you just tore a hole in their supply chain." He gestured to the heroin-filled duffel. "This load was headed through Atlanta, then onto dealers across 3 states. Your takedown cost them, and they'll want payback." Alicia folded her arms. "Let them try. We'll be waiting." Ramirez gave her a firm stare. "I don't doubt that. But I need you both sharp. This isn't the usual riffraff. The Reapers are brutal, and they clean up their messes." Nia's jaw tightened, her thoughts flicking to Lana shaking behind the counter. "We're not backing down," she said with conviction. Ramirez's stern face finally softened. A flicker of pride crossed his face. "Didn't think you would," he said. "That's why I'm assigning you both to the task force, effective immediately. The FBI is sending someone down tomorrow to coordinate." The words lingered in the silence until Alicia finally answered. "We've got it covered, Captain." Ramirez nodded and stood, signaling the end of the meeting. "Head home. Clean up. I want you both sharp come morning." The drive back was quiet, broken only by the low rumble of the engine and the faint chatter of the police scanner. Alicia drove while Nia stared out the window, her thoughts looping through the night's events. "You all right?" Alicia asked, stealing a glance her way. "Yeah," Nia replied, but her tone lacked conviction. Alicia didn't push, letting the silence linger, until Nia finally spoke again. "I can't stop thinking about Lana," she admitted. "How close it came to going bad." "It didn't," Alicia said, her voice steady. "Because we didn't let it." Nia turned to her, meeting her eyes. "But what if next time we're too late?" Alicia exhaled, her grip tightening on the wheel. "Then we make sure there isn't a next time." The following morning, the precinct buzzed with energy. The bust had made the front pages, and reporters swarmed the entrance, cameras flashing as Alicia and Nia slipped in through the side door. Inside, Ramirez was already deep in conversation with FBI agent Daniel Parker, a sharply dressed man in his early 40s who carried himself with crisp authority. Detectives, Parker greeted them, his handshake firm. You two had quite a night. Alicia raised an eyebrow. You're not just here to pat us on the back, are you? Parker allowed a smirk. Hardly. Your takedown blew open a federal case we've been working for months. We've been tracking the Iron Reapers, but that shipment you intercepted, he gestured to the board lined with evidence photos, was funding their next big move. You hit them hard, and now they're going to hit back. They're coming after us, Nia said. Parker nodded. Exactly. Which is why we move fast. We've got warrants for the drop locations you uncovered, and teams are mobilizing. I want you both in the field. Your instincts got us here. Alicia looked at Nia, then back at Parker. We're in. By noon, the operation was underway. SWAT teams suited up while unmarked vehicles pulled out from the precinct, speeding toward known Reaper hideouts. Alicia and Nia rode together, eyes sharp, watching every car and passerby. This isn't over, Nia murmured, her hand resting on the grip of her sidearm. No, Alicia replied. But it will be. They didn't know exactly what they'd find when they arrived, but one thing was certain. This battle was far from done. The sun had barely crested the horizon as Alicia and Nia rolled up to the first location, a rundown auto shop on Atlanta's outskirts. The building stood alone, boxed in by cracked pavement and rusted fences. Rusted-out vehicles and collapsed stacks of aging tires cluttered the lot, the shop's faded sign barely readable through years of wear. SWAT units were already stationed, their armored trucks flanking alleys and back exits to block every possible escape route. Agent Parker stood near the lead vehicle, eyes fixed on the auto shop as he conferred with the tactical commander one last time. You two ready? He asked as Alicia and Nia approached, both clad in reinforced vests and tactical gear. Always, Alicia replied, checking the slide of her Glock before securing it. Nia nodded sharply. Let's finish this. Parker gave the signal to the team leader. You're with me. We breach on my mark. The thud of the battering ram rang through the lot as the steel door crashed inward. SWAT flooded inside, barking commands, clearing room after room with crisp, practiced movements. Alicia and Nia followed close behind, sweeping through the shadowy interior, weapons raised. The air reeked of oil, scorched rubber, and tension. Left's clear, one officer called. Right's clear, shouted another. Alicia's gaze swept the space, landing on a narrow metal staircase leading to a second-floor office. She signaled Nia, and the two ascended silently, boots clanging against the steps. The office was a mess, papers strewn everywhere, duffel bags tossed carelessly, and piles of loose bills scattered across the desk. Maps and manifests covered the walls, detailing drop routes and warehouse sites. Nia rifled through the papers until something stopped her cold. Alicia, she said, lifting a worn ledger. This is it, names, dates, amounts. Everything. Before Alicia could answer, gunfire erupted below. Shots fired. Came the alert over the radio. They sprinted to the railing, peering down at a firefight unfolding on the garage floor. SWAT officers were pinned behind vehicles, returning fire at a group of bikers barricaded behind tool cabinets. Bullets sparked against metal, the noise deafening. Keep low. Parker's voice crackled through the radio. We need them alive. Nia's eyes locked onto Viper, firing erratically, then ducking behind an engine block. Her heart pounded as their earlier encounter flashed through her mind. He's mine, she said, already charging down the stairs. The garage was chaos, gunfire, shouts, and the screech of ricochets. Nia slid behind a car, exchanging rounds with Viper, who had taken position behind a cluttered tool bench. Alicia looped around, scanning for a flanking shot. Viper, Nia shouted. It's over, drop it. Not happening, he roared, squeezing off another round that glanced off the car hood. Nia inhaled, grounding herself as the world shrank to the beat of her heart. She waited, counting the lull between shots, then dashed low and fast, closing the gap. In one swift motion, she seized his wrist and twisted, sending the gun skittering across the floor. Viper roared, lashing out with his free hand, but Nia ducked, slamming her knee into his ribs. He staggered, wheezing, still reaching for a blade at his hip. But Alicia was already behind him, her gun trained on the back of his head. "Don't," she ordered, her voice ice. Viper froze, eyes flicking between the two women, his growl fading into a breathless snarl. With a scowl of defeat, Viper let the knife fall and slowly raised his hands. Outside, the remaining bikers had been taken into custody. Coyote and Rex were hauled out in cuffs, faces battered and expressions hollow. SWAT officers secured the perimeter while Parker sifted through the ledger Nia had recovered. "This goes deeper than we realized," he said, flipping through the pages. "We've got enough to dismantle their entire network." Nia and Alicia exchanged a weary glance, drained, but satisfied. "What about the rest of the Reapers?" Nia asked. Parker's jaw tightened. "We're just getting started. But thanks to you two, we've finally got the leverage to end this." Back at the precinct, the atmosphere was electric. Applause broke out as Alicia and Nia stepped through the bullpen, officers nodding in respect and admiration. Captain Ramirez waited at his office door, clapping them each on the shoulder as they passed. "Hell of a takedown," he said proudly. "You two just dismantled one of the biggest distribution rings in the region." Nia gave a small, tired grin. "All in a day's work, Captain." Ramirez chuckled. "Don't get too comfortable. There's still paperwork." Later that night, Alicia and Nia sat alone in the dim break room, steam rising from their coffee mugs. The adrenaline had faded, replaced by quiet reflection. "You think it's really over?" Nia asked softly. Alicia leaned back, eyes distant. "Not completely. The Reapers might be finished, but someone always steps in to fill the void." Nia nodded slowly. "Then we stay ready." They tapped their cups together in wordless agreement, the tension beginning to ease as they stared ahead, ready for whatever came next. Out on the highway, the flashing lights of cruisers lit up the dark stretch of asphalt as reinforcements. Arrived at Wilson's stop. Officers moved quickly, securing the area with weapons drawn. Alicia stood with her guns still raised, her breaths heavy but measured, while the chaos gradually calmed. Nearby, Nia pinned Rex to the ground, her knee pressed firmly into his back as she clicked the cuffs shut around his wrists. Coyote groaned in pain, clutching a bloodied arm as two officers hauled him upright. Face down on the floor, Viper let out a guttural growl, his cheek mashed against the cold tile, his swagger gone. Alicia pushed down on his shoulder, holding him in place. "You picked the wrong night to push us," she said, voice calm but cutting. "You think this ends here?" Viper spat through clenched teeth. "You've got no idea who you're messing with." Alicia leaned in, her tone razor sharp. "I know exactly who you are, a gang of thugs who prey on the vulnerable and think you're above the law. You're not." The cleanup was swift. Officers searched every inch of the bikes and vehicles, unearthing meth packs, illegal firearms, stacks of fake bills, and burner phones. The evidence made it clear, Steel Thorns wasn't just a regional crew, but part of a vast trafficking web stretching across state lines. Agent Parker arrived minutes later, stepping in to take control of the investigation. He made his way to Alicia and Nia, who were giving statements to a deputy. "You two just blew open something much bigger than expected," Parker said, holding up a bag of confiscated fake IDs. "This isn't just about drugs anymore. These guys are running weapons, laundering money. This ledger connects them to a national syndicate." Viper's bike was a goldmine, its saddlebags stuffed with documents listing names and drop zones scattered across the state. Alicia shot a glance at Nia, who raised an eyebrow. "Looks like someone's day just got a whole lot worse," Nia quipped, wiping a sheen of sweat from her brow. Parker let out a satisfied grin. "And mine just got a hell of a lot easier." His gaze shifted toward Lana, wrapped in a thermal blanket, sitting quietly in the back of an ambulance. "She's going to be key. If we can keep her safe and get her to testify, we'll take down whatever's left of their chain." In the following days, the investigation accelerated. Armed with hard evidence and eyewitness statements from Lana, Alicia, and Nia, warrants were quickly signed for multiple Steel Fangs associates. Raids swept through Rivertown and nearby counties, resulting in 15 more arrests. One warehouse listed in Viper's notes turned up crates of smuggled weapons and over $200,000 in unmarked bills. The story exploded across the news. Alicia and Nia were front-page features, hailed as the team that cracked open a criminal empire. Back at the precinct, the energy was electric. Captain Ramirez stood at the front of the room. Officers gathered, and buzzing with pride. "I want to commend Detectives Carter and Thompson for their courage and fast thinking," he said. Not only did they stop a robbery in progress and prevent a possible homicide, but they dismantled one of the region's most violent criminal networks. Applause erupted across the bullpen. Alicia gave a modest smile, but Nia leaned over and nudged her. "Come on, enjoy the applause for once," she teased. That night changed Lana's life. Her testimony was pivotal in locking up the Steel Fangs, and she was relocated under witness protection until all court proceedings were complete. The town rallied around her. Her bravery inspired others to come forward about crimes they'd once been too scared to report. Several months later, Alicia and Nia stopped by a bustling diner near the precinct. Behind the counter was Lana, confidently working the register, her posture strong and eyes brighter than they'd ever seen. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, setting down a steaming cup of coffee in front of Alicia. "You didn't just save my life. You helped me find the courage to start over." "You reclaimed your power," Nia said with a warm grin. "We just gave you the opening." Lana smiled, her confidence hard-won. The trials of Viper, Rex, and Coyote moved quickly. Viper was hit with 25 years for trafficking, weapons violations, and attempted homicide. Rex and Coyote each earned 15, with no parole for at least 10. The fall of the Steel Fangs sent a tremor through the criminal underworld. Their takedown delivered a clear signal. Law enforcement was taking the gloves off. Agent Parker later confirmed that Alicia and Nia's operation had sparked a ripple effect. Several key players within the organization were quietly picked up in the weeks that followed. Back at the precinct, Alicia and Nia sat in the locker room, the hum of the station now a comforting backdrop. The rush of the past days had settled, but the pride remained. "You think this case will end up in Academy briefings?" Nia asked, stretching her arms. Alicia smirked. "Only if they skip the part where I let Viper graze me." She peeled back a bandage to reveal the fading wound on her arm. "Still brought him down," Nia said, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Next time, though, maybe we keep it off national headlines? Reporters are blowing up my phone." Alicia chuckled, then paused to glance out the window, the sun casting a soft golden light over Rivertown. "For all the madness, I wouldn't trade it," she said quietly. "Me neither," Nia replied. As they exited the precinct, the last rays of sunlight caught their badges, gleaming for a fleeting second. They both knew the war wasn't over, not by a long shot. But this round, they'd won. And they were more than ready for the next.